George Washington. I'm sure some of you know him as the altruistic, loving founding father. And I also know that many of you know him as a British traitor, in fact, and a huge military failure. And that shining image of Washington that we all see today, a result of centuries of idealized, whitewashed history. And while that is arguably true, there was also a deception campaign at his time to idealize him, to lie about his failures. And so, when is it okay for our leaders to lie to us, to lie to their public? Or is it even okay? And before we go any deeper into this topic of truth and lying, I think it's important to define a few key terms. Lying, as defined in Why Leaders Lie, is really a subterm of the word deception, the other two key terms being spinning and concealment. Spinning is simply shining a certain light on a particular issue, manipulating diction, twisting facts. Concealment is fairly self-explanatory, concealing certain key facts that would otherwise reveal a wholer truth. And the two of these forms of deception have really become accepted into society, have become integral in our court systems, our resumes, our job interviews, or simply telling a good story. But lying is a little different because unlike the other two, there is absolutely no truth in a lie. And the book had broken it down even further into selfish lies, lies that benefit an individual, and strategic lies, lies that benefit an entire nation, or in some cases, world. And when I talk about strategic lies, it's strictly international politics. And so within strategic lies, there are interstate lies where a leader will lie to another leader or foreign audience, and domestic lies where the leader will lie to his own people for international issues. And to put international lying into scale, into perspective of a leader, imagine if you were the leader of the United States, and say your national security was threatened by no other than Kim Jong-un. It's plausible, right? Would you lie to him for your citizens, the protection of your citizens? Or better question, would you lie to your own citizens for their safety, for your democracy? And the answer is obviously subjective and usually far less extreme. But the point is that so many times we, the public, only see the lie that the leaders present, that we don't see all the darkness, all the truth behind the lie, the reasoning. One of the most famous interstate lies, where a leader will lie to another leader, occurred during the peak of the Cold War. For a while now, the US, we've had our Jupiter missiles in Turkey pointed at the Soviets. And just recently, the Soviets put their own missiles in Turkey, Cuba, thus starting the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the deal went that the US and the Soviets would remove our respective missiles from our respective countries. Fair, right? But what really gave the US the edge, what made us come out ahead, rested on two key lies. One, Kennedy, he had always wanted to remove the missiles from Turkey, even before the crisis, but wisely lied about that fact, giving us the leverage needed to conduct the deal. And two, Kennedy and the US, we denied removing our missiles from Turkey altogether. We lied to Europe and the entire international community, including our own citizens. And this was obviously not out of selfishness or corruption. It was preserving our nationalism, weakening the nationalism of the Soviets, preventing some mass panic, maintaining our alliance with Western Europe. And so we can all see the huge benefits of interstate lying and how crucial it really is to a nation's survival. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have domestic lying, where a leader will lie to his own people. And this certainly has its benefits as well, but there are often far more drawbacks. In the Iraq War, the two key reasons for going was one, Saddam Hussein was the ruthless dictator of Iraq and controlled a huge percentage of the world's oil. And the thinking was that if we couldn't do business with him, he, in a way, is obstructing our capitalism. And two, if we could remove him from power, we could start our own democracy there. We could have a powerful ally in this region of constant turmoil and hopefully bring peace in the world. But in any case, the American public didn't want to go to war. It was extremely expensive, it was very far away, and people didn't feel the dangers he posed in our everyday lives. And so the Bush administration, they lied to us. They said Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction, which we know now to be false, and also was linked to the 9/11 attacks, that he was harboring Osama bin Laden, which we know to be false today as well. He did get the war he wanted. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way he wanted, and since then, Bush and the Iraq War has often been linked to corruption and selfishness. And while many argue that if he had been more transparent with his actions, we would have avoided this entire mess. We would have saved hundreds of lives and years of spending. But at the same time, he was the leader that we chose that knew these issues the best. And who knows what the consequences would have been if we hadn't gone to war, if he hadn't lied to us. Because many historians argue that we wouldn't even be a nation if our leaders hadn't lied to us. That if George Washington hadn't created this image of him, people would never have trusted his leadership during the Revolution. People needed to have faith in his judgment. And so we can kind of see here that the result of the lie really defines how we see the lie, because no one really talks about how Washington created that image of himself. And so this reintroduces the question of when is it okay for our leaders to lie? Because I do think that our leaders should be held accountable for their actions, that they know the issues the best, and they should inform us, but most of the time that's simply not possible. And so if we as citizens don't seek that truth, then we must accept a leader that is willing to lie, that understands the darkness, and can make it clearer than truth for the rest of us. Thank you.